Welcome to Ask the Security Guy. I'm your host, Holly Magnuson, and this is episode 69, recorded live on June 2nd, 2021. I'm joined once again with Sean Corman. Hi, Sean. How's it going?
Good. How about you?
Doing all right. I'm excited to hear about today's topic. I think many will be as they get a chance to watch this. Just a couple of housekeeping things. If you are watching this live, you can ask your questions via chat. Also, if you're watching this after the fact and you have questions, you can always email us. Put up my fancy banner, iso@apu.edu. I would encourage you to subscribe to the channel and turn on the little bell where you get notifications so you get notified anytime we go live. So with that, Sean, what are we talking about today?
Well, I'm sure you've heard about it in the news or seen it online. Or if you live on the East Coast, you're feeling the impacts of it
Yes.
still. So the Colonial Pipeline was hit by a ransomware attack. So they were hit by a group called DarkSide. DarkSide has since been, well, they say they've been taken offline. They're claiming that they were hacked and that their funds were drained and sent to an unknown address, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Lots of speculation about what's actually behind that. But they're ransomware as a service, basically. And so a different group will hire their services. They'll point them at their target. They'll go, they'll do, and then they'll handle the ransomware collection process. It's interesting to note, because this is a pipeline, that the ransomware attack was directed at the business side of the house and not the actual pipeline operations. However, let's think about this for a second. Infrastructure has been one of the things that we've been talking about as a major security risk for years.
Yep.
We are now starting to see ransomware attacks directed at different parts of our infrastructure. The Colonial Pipeline, one of the more recent ones. More to come. I'm really afraid. And this is something we've been talking about. So we've got a number of vulnerabilities when you talk about infrastructure things. You've got Internet of Things, IoT devices that are basically control switches, right? They're internet connected on-off switches, or maybe it's slightly more complex than that, but they generally don't have any security controls built in, and protecting them, well, unless you have an air-gapped, completely closed network, is tough.
Almost impossible.
And that kind of defeats the purpose of having, internet connected things, as you want the ability to have, remote access to it and remote support and remote monitoring. Well, if you can use it for a good purpose, somebody can use it for a nefarious purpose. And I mean, that's just always been the case. Ransomware, in this case, with Colonial, we have a distinct lack of details available to the public, available to how the attack came in, how it was propagated, even exactly which systems were impacted. There is some detail available through the press release that Colonial put out, but also through various news articles and security rags. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of supposition. And part of that is based on what we know of DarkSide and what their tool set used to be before they were taken offline. I kind of hesitate to say that they were actually taken offline, but before they exited stage left for a while. So that said, what are the implications of something like this? Well, one, Colonial agreed to pay the ransom to the tune of about $4.4 million.
Wow.
Which is interesting because when DarkSide went offline, they released all the decryption keys for everyone that they had currently held hostage. That's part of their exit plan. DarkSide released a statement of all things, saying that they did not intentionally attack an infrastructure component, and that they hadn't really paid attention to who they hadn't done any research as to who they were attacking.
Oh.
So yeah, they're claiming to be hackers with an ethos, which actually is possible. There are some groups out there that will not go after things like hospitals or infrastructure or other things that can cause actual physical harm. So it's not unheard of.
Right.
It's unlikely, but it's there are cases where that has been true. So criminals with a conscience. Go figure.
Yeah.
So
Maybe.
So let's talk about some of the implications of this.
Yeah.
The pipeline was shut down as a safety measure because they didn't know how far it had gotten. They didn't know if it got into the control systems. And out of the abundance of caution, they shut it down. Okay, well, that pipeline feeds the entire East Coast with fuel, gasoline, diesel products, all of it. So gas stations had a run on them, people filling up their tanks for fear that the gas stations were going to run out of gas. Well, then the price gouging started.
Yeah, well, of course.
Because, well, now you've got, true economic supply and demand. So I think what we have, thanks to Colonial, is kind of a tiny little preview of what we've been talking about with, some of the larger infrastructure attacks we've been worried about, which is what impact is it to civilization or society as we know it? Well, we saw panic buying, we saw supply and demand, we saw price gouging. We're continuing to see regulatory bodies stepping in to try to control things. On the plus side, we saw a pretty good response from truck drivers and other, entities that really stepped up and started moving fuel different ways to try to, deal with the issue. So I think we got to see, kind of a little miniature preview of the best and worst of humanity in this. If nothing else, I would certainly hope that this would serve as a wake-up call for folks. Ransomware, the normal way it comes in is through phishing emails. That's it. I mean, I know we're starting to sound like a broken record with ransomware, but it is the plague of our time. It's wildly effective. It utilizes tools that are built into our computer's operating system. So it's not introducing anything nefarious right off the bat. So it's incredibly effective, and it uses social engineering as a gateway.
Our favorite thing.
Yeah. So let's do a little review here. Holly, what's social engineering?
It's making you think I'm something I'm not, or getting you to do something you really don't want to do.
Yeah, exactly. So what Holly's saying is exactly true. It's basically the art of lying, to take the sugarcoat off of it. But social engineering is manipulating people for a prescribed response. So I want you to click on this link. So I'm going to write an email in such a way that you're going to click on that link, or you're going to download this file, or you're going to run this macro in a Word document. It sounds silly, but it's incredibly effective. And all of the ransomware attacks that you see, almost all of them are sourced out of an email that somebody clicked on something. So I can't stress this enough. When you look at these things, for us at APU, we have spam at apu.edu, we have ISO at apu.edu, we have the support center. We have all kinds of resources available. If it looks funny, if it feels off, if the hair on the back of your neck kind of twitched, send it to us. We'll take a look.
Yes, and trust me, your vice president is not going to ask you to go buy gift cards for his niece. Not going to happen.
Yeah. Because, well, let's see, we only saw what, 2 different instances of that with 2 different VPs.
Yeah, where have you been? It's been happening a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very popular one, trying to get you to jump because a VP or a dean or, is asking you to do something for them.
Yeah.
So,
And really in respect to that, I want to give a shout out to the business office because they field the most of these.
mhm.
And the way it comes into the business office is people trying to spoof the controller or someone in charge at the business office. They'll do a little research.
Payroll.
Yep. Payroll. And all they have to do is do a little research, find out who's working there, and try to spoof emails as that person. Use terse language, try to scare somebody, and build the sense of urgency and timing.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying for big dollars when they go after a business office. So I really want to give a shout out to our business office folks because they've spotted these consistently and they report them. And there's a lot that they don't bother reporting because they're just good at it.
Mm-hmm.
But really, really enjoy working with those folks and admire the work that they've been doing. Any questions on Colonial, Holly?
No, not really. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those where we still don't really, sounds like we don't know a lot of what happened behind the scenes. It may never know, but we do know it was a ransom attack that they paid a lot of money for.
So interesting little side note on that. The pipelines are monitored. They are monitored by TSA, and previously to the Colonial attack, they did not have a reporting requirement of breaches. So that tells us that we don't know how bad this problem actually is. We don't know how long they've been seeing attacks because they've never been a mandated reporter, or never been required to report. Now they are within 12 hours of an incident. So that's new, and so we're looking forward to seeing a little more data. Hopefully, not more incidents, but more data.
Yeah. Hopefully not more incidents because that's kind of the stuff nightmares are made of.
It is, especially when it comes to anything related to infrastructure. National infrastructure our country is built on transportation.
Mm-hmm.
There was a joke I heard a long time ago, how long would it take for our civilization to devolve if the truckers all stopped rolling for a day or two? Well, turns out it's about 7 days. Yeah. So between our trains, planes, and semis, that's how our economy works. And these bad actors and foreign entities that don't like us very much, they know that. So it's a pretty scary thing. But again, for anybody that works in one of those sectors, email, be careful.
Yeah.
Personally, at work, both. And I think that's another really critical point is if you work in a job where you're tied into something like that, or you have privileges with an entity like that, your personal email is a gateway as well. They're a gateway to you, and then that's how social engineering works. It can be either through trying to trick you into something, or it can be blackmail, or it can be a combination of the two. There's a lot of different hooks to social engineering. The sky's the limit on that.
Yeah.
So I encourage you, be suspicious. Well, even Scripture says, be wise as a serpent and gentle as a dove.
Yep.
So that advice remains. And with social engineering, our listeners, you're the first line of defense.
Mm-hmm.
There is no adequate technology out there that will protect you 100%. But you being wise and skeptical and just verifying and asking somebody who else, who can take a look and give you some kind of verification, that will stop these things. And it'll stop them in their tracks every time. Speaking of being stopped,
Nice
it
segue
wasn't
there.
part of our original agenda, but by popular demand, we also wanted to give an honorable mention to Azusa PD, who also recently suffered a ransomware attack. If you go out to the Azusa PD website, their press release has a lot of good information out there as to what was breached, and they're not really sharing a lot of details about how. And again, I doubt they ever will. But we do know that the FBI were involved. The notification was delayed a little bit while they worked with the FBI to investigate it and try to deal with some of the issue, because there's some sensitive data that was put at risk as a result of this. So I encourage our listeners, if you've had any interactions with Azusa PD ever, check the press release on their website and follow the instructions if it applies to you. But again, another ransomware attack.
Yep.
It's funny. I obviously read the work of a number of other security researchers and kind of keep up with what other guys are doing and looking into. The funny thing is, ransomware has become so normal that it's not even really something that's talked about that much anymore.
Now, just another ransomware attack.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Wow.
It's gotten to the point of, oh yeah, there's another one. It was this variant. Moving on. Next topic. That's disturbing because ransomware is one of the most effective, most consistent types of attack we've seen in a very long time in the security industry. Now, mind you, there are a number of other kinds of hacks that are notorious and they live out there and they're still alive after over a decade of they should have been gone, but they're still. In my career, ransomware is one of the worst. It's one of the most insidious because of how it leverages legitimate tools and social engineering.
Yep.
It's kind of a combination made in heaven, or, well, in this case, the other region.
Yeah.
So with that, Holly, are there any questions or comments from our listeners?
Nope, no questions or comments. But again, if you are watching this after the fact, you can send your questions to iso@apu.edu, and we'll get back to you as quickly as we can. Yeah, kind of a sobering episode, Sean. But it's important for us to understand what's going on in the world, and really that going back to that comment you made a few minutes ago, how ransomware has become so commonplace that it's hardly getting a mention, but it's just running rampant. And
it's running wild.
The damage that can be done by one click, especially within an organization.
When you have hacker groups out there running ransomware as a service,
yeah,
meaning I go to their service, I can point them at a target, they get a cut of the payout, and that's all I have to do. Yeah. I don't have to hack anybody. All I have to do is go pay for a service, and I'm paying for a service based on what they collect.
Yeah, I mean, that's
about that for a minute. It's like, what is it? Getting an attorney on a contingency. Same thing.
Yeah, that's a little scary. So
this is the world we live in.
So with that, thank you for watching. We will be back next month. Not sure with the July 4th holiday where that's falling. At July 4th, oh, it's August. Yeah, July 4th is of Sunday. So we should be back on July 7th at 1 p.m., our new time. And if you've got ideas, there's something you would like to learn about or hear about, again, you can use that email address and let us know what you would like to hear about, what questions you might have about cybersecurity. And we would love to get those and answer those for you.
Absolutely.
So with that, we'll say goodbye.
All right.
Thank you.